What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Kalispell Warhawk Dynasty. We are preparing for year 11, making this the longest dynasty I've ever done. This is going to be a recap of the past offseason that was streamed over the weekend. It was a really fun stream. If you have the time to watch it, I'd recommend it. It was a really good time, and there were some big surprises in the offseason that'll impact the series now moving forward. And there's a lot more excitement, I feel, going into year 11 than I had anticipated. But obviously, we've had a very successful run with the Warhawks, winning a Rose Bowl and 3 consecutive national championships. So why is this series still interesting? I'd say because I want to know what's next. I want to know what's beyond the Brandon Warren era, and I want to see how we handle losing so many superstar players. This was easily our best senior class ever in the series, and we don't exactly have a replacement for everybody. But let's get into the offseason recap now, taking a look at some of these bowl results. Of course, we won ours, and Penn State won big over Oklahoma. The Nittany Lions are still a very good team, and somebody that I wanted to face again to continue that rivalry. USC won theirs as the number 11 ranked team over Ohio State. Minnesota's worked their way up but lost to LSU in their bowl game. Oregon won theirs over New Mexico. And Hawaii bounced back big time this season. Leon Daniels has signed another contract extension with Kalispell and a 96-37 record. I expected to lose some coaches this year, but we only lost one. We lose our offensive coordinator, but get a head coach previously from TCU who didn't have a very good record, but he's level 28. And because he changed jobs, we get to assign all these upgrades, and it takes up the entire skill tree. So we get a maxed out offensive coordinator this coming season. Remember back to last year, I said that any player that wants to leave early to the NFL draft, I will no longer try to convince them to stay. It's kind of a rule for the series to add some challenge, and I think it's more realistic. So when we check the players leaving screen, we had a couple surprises here. Maurice Collins has declared, and so has Antoine Knightley. I know they're later round picks, but that's a rule now for the series. It's a lot more realistic, and many players in college football declared and end up going late in the draft or even undrafted. But how about this? We have 2 players also transferring. Ross Mastorovich, an awesome man cover corner, and Montrell Bonds, a player I've hyped up a ton. He wants to go to Fresno State. But I did not expect to lose Maurice Collins. He was coming off kind of a down year for his standards. I was looking forward to his senior season. And then Antoine Knightley, this was a surprise. He only had 64 career catches. I thought he would for sure stay for his senior season. And then we see here a lot of players projected to go early in the draft, including the combo of Brandon Warren, Carl Joyce, and Marty Belafonte, all in round 1. This offense was so good, and we're losing some very key pieces of what made us a dominant team these last 4 years. Boogie Turner, only a 6th round pick. That doesn't sound right to me. Marcus Payne in the 5th. That to me is a steal for his Todd Gurley-esque skill set. Montrell Bonds, though, I was a little worried he would try to transfer, and I thought I gave him enough carries to keep him here, and so I tried to convince him to stay. Like, he was set to be running back 1 or running back 2, certainly would get a lot of work, and so I started to try and promise him a few things. I said he'd play in more than 9 games. That wasn't enough. And then I tried to go a little bit more aggressive and say 300 carries, which I don't think we could actually fulfill. That still wasn't enough to convince him. And then I said he'd catch some passes as well, but that was not enough. Montrell Bonds is gone. He's going to Fresno State. He'll sit out a year, and then he'll be playing for the Bulldogs a couple years from now. For Ross Mastorovich, I still didn't think he'd play much this season, so I knew any persuasion had little chance of working. He's going to Wyoming. So that's something to look forward to. I've said 11 seasons at least for this series. It could very well go more, but we could have some reunions against some former players if we continue. I did not edit the height and weight for Justin Colbert. I didn't realize you had to be at least 200 pounds to get drafted as a quarterback, so unfortunately he doesn't get drafted here. I did decide though to export the draft class. I would never do this, but I'm like, why not? I'm not sure if I'll ever use it and go back to Madden 25 on the PS3, but this file is there in case I ever decide to do that. Next up, we move on to transfer requests. I've been hoping for one for a long time, but now 10 straight off seasons, nobody has even tried the transfer to become a Warhawk. And now the pro draft results. And this is a busy class for the Warhawks. Warren, Belafonte, and Joyce do all go in round 1. Townsend in round 2. Justin Payne, Maurice Collins in the 4th. Payne, Turner, Hall, and Noah Manu Y. Nearly all those players were starters on offense, and you know our team's going to look significantly different next season. There were some big classes from other teams. Alabama sent about as many players to the NFL drafts. Also, we see Minnesota has really built up their program in this series. They weren't quite this strong when we played them when Sidney John Charles was there. Penn State graduates a ton. They've been doing this for a while. Texas has recruited fantastic in the last few seasons, so no surprise they had a lot. UCLA loses 4, and USC loses 3, including Heisman candidate running back Harvey Mullins. Next, it's on to off-season recruiting. And I knew this was going to be a fairly easy one. We had one main target, Sylvester Rosthorn, the number 3 tackle in the country, and we definitely had a need for him. So we stayed in this recruiting battle all season so we could put at least $10K in him in the offseason. And then Josh Townsend. He is a cornerback who's not very physical, not a great tackler, but somebody I wanted for his cover skills, and we put most of the remaining points into his battle. And then linebacker Joe Owens, because we're just losing some of that linebacker depth we're used to having. Many wanted to see me try to go after a running back after losing Bonds and Payne and Belafonte in one offseason. Ultimately, none of these running backs were all that intriguing to me, so I decided to move on. And on to signing day we go. Joe Owens does decide on Kalispell. Todd Roswell goes to Oklahoma State. Ashton Phillips to Alabama. Eric Watson was an interesting quarterback, but I felt like we already had that backup spot taken care of. And we did win the battles for Sylvester Rosthorn by a ton and Josh Townsend, giving us a top 5 recruiting class. I never checked to see what we placed exactly, but we were definitely in the top 5, and this was a really strong class. We picked up 2 athletes in this recruiting class, including Matt Reddick, who originally I thought would play running back, but I think with no mobile quarterback on the roster, and the fact that his arm is okay, it's certainly not even average, his accuracy is low, but to have somebody on the roster that can run some of those option packages and maybe be a backup quarterback, at least I want to see him develop at that spot. And then Sean Merville. Very, very athletic, great speed at 94, great spin, juke, elusiveness. I also thought he could play some running back. So he's going to actually be moved there, and he could play pretty early, given we lost 3 running backs this offseason. Originally, I thought he'd play corner, but we do have more depth there than at running back. But obviously, we will have a new quarterback this season, and that is going to be Luke Irvin, who has a strong arm and he's very accurate. You'll see his development in the training results. But I did move one player to a new position. Ronnie Howard really wasn't going to get many safety snaps. He does have running back skills, but I think that for the future, I want to play him now at cornerback, where he has a better chance to get on the field in these next couple of seasons. We did get Elliott Red, one of the top safeties in this last class, so he's definitely going to be starting after maybe next season. And yes, I am right now planning on a year 12 for the Kalispell Dynasty. Here are the training results, with our top position player being Tommy Jordan, who takes over for defensive captain Chris Baker. Jordan and Akinjide, Foster and Springs, quite a secondary. Those are our 4 best position players, and then we get some offensive linemen, Brandon Williams, Jaquan Cunningham. Notice how now we're becoming even more of a defensive football team, while the offense is left to kind of figure things out with many new starters. That challenge is the most intriguing thing to me heading into year 11. But I still feel like this is a pretty deep roster. It's just we don't have the same star power that led us to 3 consecutive national championships. Oh, and Johnny Cabral has the best acceleration on the team, but he's not playing running back. Luke Irvin is going to play quarterback, however, now with 94 accuracy, and our offense is going to look very different given he's not really a running quarterback. At running back, you can expect to see a lot of Austin Jenkins, whom we saw a couple years ago quite a bit in garbage time, and then Jim Jackson could be running back too. You'll see in the practice how the other running backs performed. At wide receiver, I think Tyrone Houston takes over for Carl Joyce as the primary deep threat, and we're going to rely a lot on true freshman Sherrod Edwards. At tight end, the dynamic Drake Maddox takes over for Thomas Roberts, and I think that he has a very high ceiling. The offensive line is looking alright. We lost a few starters, but we developed pretty well and got Sylvester Rawsthorne, so I'm feeling good about the O-line, even if they're not quite as good as they were. Obviously, losing Boogie and Maurice Collins means we'll have some turnover there along the defensive line, but I feel that Bill Long and Michael Hurst are adequate replacements, but they don't bring the same level of ability as those players had. But don't forget, we also had a breakout freshman last year in Shannon Somerville. At linebacker, James Huggins increases his speed. He has exceptional range. He's a great run stopper. And then in the secondary, Juno Springs and Daniel Foster return, so I feel great about them. Tommy Jordan's very rangy and skilled. Akinjide's gotten a lot better in coverage. Overall, this team's feeling pretty good. But there was one thing I forgot to address in recruiting. Our punter, Cedric Parks, graduated, and I did not replace him, leaving us with a walk-on punter, Dominic Day. From the state of Missouri. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. And I'm adding another house rule this year to the series. I will not have kickers or punters do both jobs. The CPU doesn't. I'll just have to get used to it and handle punting with Dominic Day. And you'll see him in the practice that we're getting to here in just a few seconds. But overall, I only left one open spot on the roster. Mark Robinson was a running back that a lot of people wanted me to recruit. He ends up walking on here instead. We'll keep 2 fullbacks on the roster, not too worried about it. We have a spot there for the transfer that'll never happen anyway. So let's get to practice now and talk more about this team. The story is all about the offense. How do they handle moving from the Brandon Warren-led dynamic option spread attack and now convert to more of a pro-style conventional offense with Luke Irvin? With Irvin, we have a quarterback whose arm is very strong and his accuracy should be better than Brandon Warren's. Now, J.R. Battle was our last pocket quarterback that started a lot of games, but Battle really could not leave the pocket and do a lot. Irvin isn't going to run the option, but he has 70 speed, which is enough to at least run away from some pressure and extend plays, like you'll see right here. But obviously, the days of the long runs for a touchdown by our quarterbacks aren't going to happen with Luke Irvin. But I don't think that they need to for us to have a good offense. Sherrod Edwards was a star wide receiver that'll be playing as a day 1 freshman, and Irvin's arm is pretty incredible. Nick Lindsay is going to get some playing time this year as a redshirt freshman, and Tyrone Houston can also go downfield. So overall, while we're replacing a lot of players, we're going to be, I think, in okay shape, but we don't have anybody that has the reliable hands like Justin Payne or the great route running. Those 2 ratings in general are going way down for our team. Here's a nice play, by the way. A well-timed hurdle always looks good here in the world of video game football. Drake Maddox at tight end can stretch the field, but he will likely drop some passes. I think that's something you'll see a lot more from this team. There's so much inexperience. We have lower catching ratings across the board. And then at running back, I know that Austin Jenkins is talented. I think that he brings a lot of the same things to the table that we saw from Kyle Thomas. But that second running back spot that was supposed to be Montrell Bonds is now up for grabs. And I got Jim Jackson some carries here. He's not a tremendous athlete, but we didn't really see the power that he needs to show for him to make up for that lack of athleticism. He's not an explosive back. So I brought in some different running backs to see what they could do, but it looks like after Austin Jenkins, we're going to be very thin at the position. So expect running back to be heavily recruited this year, which I'm looking forward to. I'm really not sure what our running back rotation is going to look like, but it might lead to us being a more pass-heavy, wide-open offense. Not sure if I'd call us an air raid, but we may resemble that at times. As long as Luke Irvin has plenty of receivers to throw to and we're thin at running back, it's going to be the way to play. I don't think I'll be taking all the option out of the playbook, though, because I want MrHurriicane to run some packages, and you'll see him play pretty soon. But I also just can avoid those plays, and I still have a lot of passes and formations that are going to work just fine for Luke Irvin. So I'll just treat it like normal and refresh the playbook as I feel I need to. But here is MrHurriicane. 82 throw power, I believe, like 73 accuracy, and he's not going to be somebody I want to throw a lot with. As soon as I got him into practice, you can see that inaccuracy on display, but it got a lot better as I continued playing with him. He does have tremendous speed, and the option, we know how powerful that can be. I do want to run some packages with him throughout games, but it's not going to be like a 2-quarterback system. Colt Sully, by the way, is one player that might go from a very low on the depth chart receiver to actually getting a fair amount of playing time. He has very high spec catch, and every time we practice, he stands out making all kinds of plays. Reddick, though, I feel that he might end up being our backup quarterback. If anything were to happen to Irvin, there's a chance I'd just let Reddick start and see what happens. I don't plan on redshirting him because then I can't run any packages with him this season, and he might be a useful player to have this year. And now, our punter, Dominic Day. He's a left-footed punter, and he has a range of about 42 yards with no wind. He's not a great punter, but I did not address punter in recruiting like I should have. And there's one thing you can do with a punter like Day. Line drive punts can be really useful, and because he doesn't have the power, I might rely on some of these. Now, it took a little practice to get used to, but you can see on some of these that worked out, the line drive punts that bounce a lot are sometimes the best punts you can get, and here's one of them. If the punt returner can't get there in time, you end up with a very good punt at the end of the day. So Dominic Day will be our punter for at least a season, and we'll see if we can use this skill set to our advantage. As far as the defense goes, don't expect a whole lot of change, but I do want to know who can replace the playmaking that we saw from Mario Townsend, who could do so many things for our defense. I can't wait to see how this team plays in year 11. Here are the current settings that I've been using now for a while. I don't anticipate any upcoming slider changes, so these should be set for quite a while. The main thing that I've changed recently is the CPU quarterback accuracy. I've bumped it up to 20 because I want their quarterbacks to play smarter and not miss open looks all the time. I've also increased their running back ability so they can better utilize their skills and moves in the open field. But I feel that after I had this set playing, I had some of my most fun games in a long time. When Montrell Bonds is eligible to play at Fresno State, it does look like he'll be easily the #1 running back on their depth chart, so he's going to get that playing time that he wanted. And at Penn State, star quarterback Lameka Warwick is set to start for the first time this year. He was a key recruit from one of Blackjack's latest recruiting classes, and it's his time as a redshirt freshman. We will play Penn State at Penn State this year. And we're also going to be facing South Florida. They actually have a really good all-around roster and another quarterback that Blackjack introduced to us in recruiting in Quan Tippins, who is now a junior. So we'll check out South Florida and Penn State, but for the other two non-conference games, you can leave your suggestions down below on who you think we should play. But I think Penn State and USF is a really fun start. I have not decided yet on all the red shirts, but I'll do one more practice stream, and then we'll set the final roster and get everything ready for year 11. It should be a lot of fun. Kalispell is going to look way different on offense, and we'll see what that means for our team moving forward. But thank you all for supporting this series. It's been so much fun, an awesome journey with this team, but we're not done. I'm really interested in this next chapter, and it'll begin very soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please smash that like button if you're excited for Kalispell Year 11. Leave your feedback down below, and subscribe to the channel, because there's still a lot of Kalispell to come. See you all next time, and have a Dominic day.